So the idea of today's presentation is to go, as the title says, beyond the basics. So I'm kind of assuming that you do have some experience with ZenGengo. You're not completely brand new to the platform. If you are, that's okay. I'm going to go slow, but we're going to be trying to dig down into doing a little bit of a deep dive into some more advanced settings in today's presentation. So, just try to follow along if you can, if you're brand new to the platform. But this is really for people who have been using the platform for at least a while. And I can see most people in the chat are in that situation, so that's good. Okay. So yeah, in this webinar, we're going to go beyond the basics. We're going to be covering some more advanced features of the 10 assignment types, as well as showing how to make lessons and courses integrate with other platforms such as Google Classroom, but possibly Moodle as well. And I'd also like to introduce the lesson library, which is a new feature of ZenGengo. So I thought I'd start by saying today what ZenGengo is not, just so we're on the same page as each other on this. ZenGengo is not a complete replacement for face-to-face lessons, of course, whether you're online or in a physical classroom. But the asterisk here denotes that it can and should be used in conjunction with face-to-face lessons. Research actually shows that somewhere between 30 to 50% of language study should be autonomous, and 100% face-to-face can actually be detrimental to your learners, not beneficial. That was a study done by Busu, by the way. There's a webinar on Busu that you can watch. If anyone's interested in hearing about that, I can provide the link later. But yeah, it should be a mix of ideally, language learning should be a mix of face-to-face and autonomous learning, or group and autonomous learning. So that's what ZenGengo allows you to do, is to create these kind of assignments that can be done autonomously. I'm getting a message that my photo is frozen. I'm not sure if that's just that person or everyone. Hopefully everything is coming through smoothly still. ZenGengo is not an optimized solution for collaborative pair work or collaborative group work. Okay, it's not optimized for that. That's not to say it can't be used for pair work or it can't be used for group work. In fact, it can. ZenGengo activities can be done in groups or pairs because we have a login-less feature. So one of the main features of ZenGengo is that students don't have to log in to do assignments. They just have to put in their name. And if you want them to do it in a group or a pair, they could put in 2 names there, to show that they're in a pair. But I would say it's really optimized for autonomous independent study. Sorry, that should be independent, not autonomous. And ZenGengo is not a synchronous communication solution for delivering live face-to-face lessons online. I'm sure most of you, at least over the past couple of years, have been using either Zoom or Google Meet or perhaps Microsoft Teams, and that's fine. You can use ZenGengo in conjunction with your synchronous communication solution, or if you're back face-to-face, as many of us are now this semester, you can use it in conjunction with your face-to-face lessons. I'm getting a message from Henry that he can't hear anything. If anyone else is having the same problem, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll just continue. Henry, maybe if you could check your settings, your speaker settings, for example. Okay, I'm going to continue on. So that's what ZenGengo is not. So what is ZenGengo? Well, ZenGengo is lots of things, and probably too many things actually. But it's a 4 skills. It's a platform for creating 4 skills language assignments. It's a great way to deliver asynchronous learning activities to your students quickly and easily. It's a tool that allows you to create listening, reading, writing, and speaking practice activities for your students. It's an easy way to give audio, video, and written feedback to your students. It's a great way to cut down on the amount of grading that you have to do with auto grading across all 10 assignment types. It is a replacement for PDFs, maybe. This is a question mark. I want to say RIP PDF. Like, I really want to say that. I think PDFs have had their day, but perhaps some people are still using them. And if you're going back to face-to-face, you might decide to go back to using printouts. I personally wouldn't recommend that. I wouldn't want to do it myself, having now used ZenGengo. I think anything that can be done on a printout pretty much can be done via ZenGengo. It's a way to unchain yourself from the printer or photocopier, of course, when we finally go back to face-to-face. It's a way to deliver assignments to your and other activities to your students in whatever context you might find yourself this semester. So whether it's face-to-face, online, hybrid, HyFlex, or other, of course, you can only use physical paper activities in the physical classroom. So with ZenGengo, it could be used either in the physical classroom or in an online context. It's a good way to prevent plagiarism and inappropriate use of machine translation and other forms of cheating. So some teachers, when they go online or they use digital assignments as opposed to physical ones, they worry about cheating and they worry about their students using machine translation or plagiarizing. ZenGengo has some settings to help mitigate those kind of problems. And it's a great way to administer formative or summative testing to your students as well. So formative testing is something that you might give once a week or once a month, or even a couple of times a semester. Summative will probably be at the end of each semester or at the end of the semester. So you can do testing with ZenGengo. And also we have a new library of Cepha-leveled 4 skills lessons relating to a range of interesting topics. And I really want to talk about our new lesson library today. And it's a convenient way to create lessons or even entire courses of content for your language learners. So again, I'm going to talk about those things today. And it's so much more. I'm sure those of you who've been using ZenGengo for a while could add some things to this list. It's not exhaustive by any means, but you can find the way that working with ZenGengo that works for you. I'm getting some reports that people can't hear me or that the connection is not good from Henry and Delano. I hope you guys can hear me. If anyone else has a problem, could you let me know in the chat, please? Otherwise, I'll continue. So in today's presentation, I'd like to cover these things. I'd like to quickly review the activity types, okay? I'd like to look at the submission settings. So these are can be quite confusing. I guess they're a little bit complicated, a little bit complex. So I'd like to just explain the submission settings. And I'd like to look at the lessons, how to create lessons, and also how to import lessons from the lesson library. I'd also like to look at how to create courses. And if I have time, I'll look at Google Classroom integration. If nobody's using Google Classroom, then maybe we can skip that one. But I think it would be interesting for some people, maybe. And finally, I'd like to allow time for a bit of Q&A and maybe some discussion for anyone who's attending this presentation right now. Okay, so I'm going to go over to ZenGengo now, and I'm going to start with a review of the activity types. Okay, so I'm assuming, as I said before, that you're not completely new, that you have logged into the platform before, that you'll be able to, maybe you've already created some folders, you've already created some assignments. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder here, just to call this, I don't know, Beyond Basics. Okay. Yeah, I was getting a message to say that my connection was unstable, so that might be the reason, but I'm not sure why that would be. Normally it's fine. Okay, I'm going to continue, and hopefully things will clear up if there's a problem. So, so the 10 assignment types that we have are audio recording, video recording, written report, speaking drill, text gap fill, text to test, video gap fill, multi-choice quiz, vocab, test, and content page. Okay, so they cover, like I said, all 4 skills. So you can do speaking with the audio, video, and a speaking drill. You can do writing with a written report. You can do listening and reading with the other assignment types. Okay, so let me go ahead, maybe start with an audio recording. I'm just going to, actually, what I will do is I'll import an example course here so we can speed up things a little bit. So if you're just getting started with ZenGengo and you want to see the kind of things that you can do, one idea might be to import an example course. Okay, so from the dashboard, from the main page, from the home page, if you click on import course, okay, then you'll see we have these 4 options: English, Spanish, French, and German. If you go ahead and choose whichever language that you're teaching, I'm going to focus mainly on English today. So I'm going to click on English and then click on OK. And that will import a complete folder of activities as an example. Okay, so here we have the activities here. And you can see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 activities, 1 for each assignment type here. So let me start with the audio recording. Okay, so I said I'd start with talking about submission settings. So I'll show the activity types maybe in conjunction with the submission settings. So by default, when you import a course, the submission settings are set to require a login with Google or Microsoft. Okay, but I'm going to start by just saying let's have the student input their details on submission. Okay, so this is the easiest way to get students submitting assignments to you on ZenGengo. Okay, it's just to click on collect student details on submission. Now you have some other options below here that you can specify. You always need to collect the student name. That's the absolute minimum that is required, is to collect the student name. Okay, but the other options are optional. So you can choose if you want to require a student number, and you can also require a student email if you would like to do so. Now, one thing to note about the student email is that if you want to give feedback to your students, and I mentioned in the earlier part of the presentation that you can give audio, video, and written feedback to your students, you need to check the email option if you want to email them that feedback. Okay, so if you're collecting student details on submission, name is always required. Number and email are optional, but you need email if you want to email students the feedback. I also mentioned some anti-cheating options that we have, and those are also defined on this screen here. And these will apply to all assignments created in that folder. So if you check detect and prevent Google Translate, okay, when a student opens an assignment that was created in this folder and they try to use Google Translate, it will not allow them to do so. And I'll try to demonstrate that in a moment. Also, we can detect and prevent the use of Grammarly. So again, some teachers might not mind their students using Grammarly. Others might want them to use it only in certain situations. So we can try to detect and prevent the use of the Grammarly plugin. I think it definitely works on Chrome. I think it also probably works on Firefox and other browsers. It basically detects whether Grammarly is present on the page. And then if it detects Grammarly is present, it doesn't allow the student to continue the assignment. Okay, I'll go ahead and click on Save. Now, how do you distribute this assignment to your students? Now, there's many different ways to do that. The easiest and simplest way is to just click on the link button here, okay? So when I'm doing a lesson on Zoom, which I have done over the past 2 years, oftentimes I'll just click on the link button and I'll just paste the link into the chat. Okay, I can do this now for you guys, okay? Then my students can just click on the link and they can do the activity right there, immediately without without needing to do anything else. So what will the students see when they click on the link? Now, there's 2 ways to see that as a teacher. Okay, one is to click on the eye icon here, which will be a preview of the assignment. The other, if you want to see it exactly as the student will see it, is to click on the cog and then click on View as Student. Okay, so there's two ways. One is the eye for a quick preview, and one is the cog, which will allow you to click on View as Student, which is exactly as the student will see the assignment here. Okay. So because I specified that I wanted the student to input their ID number and their email address, these boxes become compulsory, mandatory. Okay. If anyone wants to do this, by the way, and try it out while I'm talking, please go ahead and try it out. You can click on the link in the chat. So now, one thing to note, if you are using this submission setting, which again is collect student details on submission, the name has to be unique. Okay, so if I submit under the name Paul, and then I try to submit again under the name Paul, it won't let me. Okay, it will say that somebody has already submitted under that name, and please contact your teacher for further information. So we basically don't allow resubmissions under the same name. So that's an important thing to remember. Now, the student ID section is really useful if you are trying to transfer the grades from ZenGengo into your institutional gradebook. I know where I work in Japan, every student has a number called a gakuseki bango, which is basically the register number. And it's unique for every student. And when I upload my grades at the end of the year, I have to do it by gakuseki bango. The name, actually, student name is less important than the student number. So that's why we have this extra setting here. So again, I'm putting in my email address. If any of these, by the way, don't match, it doesn't let you continue. Email has to exactly match the first attempt, and the number has to exactly match as well. So that's a way to try to mitigate the problem of students typing in their details incorrectly. Now we have the activity here. My best friend is called John. I've known him for 10 years, and he's a great guy. Okay, so I have my audio recording, which I can play back maybe a little bit. My best friend is called John. I've known him for 10 years, and he's a great guy. So those of you who are familiar with this assignment type, students can re-record as many times as they like. We have that option enabled because sometimes, obviously, there could be a problem with a microphone, or their mother might walk in, or that they might lose their connection or something. So we allow students to re-record as many times as they like. And then finally, when they're happy with their recording, they can click on Submit. Now that will go into the teacher's dashboard. Okay, first of all, the student gets feedback here. So the student can review their submission, and they can also download their submission. Now, I should actually explain a little bit about this page, I think, because this is something that's quite interesting to talk about. When you create the assignment now, if I go into the audio recording assignment and click on the edit button, at the bottom of the page, you'll see what this section, which is after submission show. Okay, so if you want to control what the student sees after they submit their assignment, you can do it on a per assignment basis by going to the panel, which is called after submission show. And every assignment type has this section. Yeah, every assignment type has these options available at the end before you click on the save or update button. Okay. So you can choose to show a confirmation message, which is the submission received at the top here. You can choose to show a score, which is for assignments, for audio assignments, it's actually calculated from the transcript. Okay, so I don't have a transcript in this case, so the score will not be relevant. And we can also show to give feedback. And in the case of audio assignments, it is it also includes the recording of the audio. Okay, so I think for audio, all of these, or maybe the first one and the third one, are checked by default. So the student will also always see their submission was received, and they will always be able to play their audio back after they submit it and download it. Okay. If you're using it for testing purposes or for evaluation purposes, I really recommend that you get students to download their submission. And if there's any debate about whether a submission was received or not, you can say, well, you should have your own copy. Okay, so this allows the students to download their own copy of what they submitted to you. And then there's two copies, one the student has and one you have. So it allows you to verify that they have actually submitted if that becomes a question of debate later on. Okay. So let me go maybe on to the next assignment type. Let's have a look at multiple choice quiz. Okay. A different way to distribute the assignment type, if you're back in face-to-face classrooms, you could click on the cog icon and then click on show QR. Now in Japan, I know every student has a smartphone pretty much, and they all know how to scan a QR code. You just have to hold up your camera to the code, and then it will recognize the code, and you click on it, and it will open the code in the browser. Now, one thing to be careful of, if you are using the QR code to distribute your assignments to students, make sure that they open the link in Safari. If they are using another app to scan the QR code, sometimes the app has like its own browser that doesn't allow audio recording or doesn't allow video recording. We only support Safari on mobile. That's really important because a lot of students do these activities on mobile now, right? So for iOS devices, which is, tablets, smartphones, etc., we only support Safari. We don't support even Google Chrome on iOS. We don't support because Google Chrome is not really Google Chrome. Okay, we do support Google Chrome on Android. All right. So if your students have Android devices, they can use Chrome. If they have iOS devices, they should only be using Safari. Okay. So let's look at the multiple choice quiz. Now, this quiz has lots of different question types available. So one of the question types you can do is like a reordering activity. So this is like a read and reorder. So I have to figure out the correct order of these phrases. So something like this. Okay. We also have kind of standard multiple choice questions. We have this question type, which is categorization. So the student has to drag the words into the correct categories. Yeah. College words. I think that would be thesis. Satchel would be a school word. Company car would be a office word. Student loan would be a college word. Recess, school word. Overtime, office word. Tax report, school trip, school word. Okay. This is we have a question type that allows you to match an image to a word like this. So this is graduation certificate, I think. We have a question type that allows you to match an image to an audio recording.
Company car, recess, satchel, thesis, company car.
And we have a question type that allows you to match a word to an image. Okay. Okay, so when you get to the end of this, you can see it wouldn't let me submit. So the reason for that is that I'm currently in preview mode. So if you want to go through the whole assignment and you want to submit the assignment, you have to preview the assignment the other way, which is to click on the cog and then view as student. Okay, that will allow you to actually submit it and go all the way to the submission and then submit into your dashboard. So if I click on refresh here, I'll see that my previous submission is available in this menu here. Okay. If I click on this, I can review all the submissions. I can click through the submissions using the buttons here. I can scroll through the submitters using the options here, and I can see the average score, and I can see the score for this particular submission, the date it was submitted, and the email, everything. All the details are available here. I can delete the submission from here. I can download the data. If I want to download data for all of the audio submissions, I can do that by clicking on this one here, download all data. So that's what I tend to do. Once I know that every student has submitted an assignment for my backup purposes and for my record keeping purposes, I will download all the data to my computer, and I will also download all the scores if I have scores for that assignment type. So that's a really good idea to do that. Then you've got, the data in multiple places, just in case. Okay. Let me just see what submission settings. Okay, so let me go back to submission settings and maybe show a different submission setting. And I'll keep going through the assignment types, but occasionally I will change the submission settings so you can see how they affect the assignments that we're doing. So another way you can get student names and data. Hi, Lila. Thanks for joining us. Another way you can get student names and data is to specify a list of students in advance. Okay, so what you want to do in this case is to copy and paste from a spreadsheet. So you can see here underneath this section here, we have copy and paste from a spreadsheet. And again, I can choose whether I want to just have a student name or whether I want the name and ID number, or if I want the name, ID number, and email. Okay, so let me just quickly show an example of how this would work. So I'm currently on a Mac, so I'm using a Numbers here. Let me just share my whole screen. Okay, so I have my ZenGengo window on the left here, and I have a numbers spreadsheet here. Now, what I might be able to do is get a list of students from my school office, and then just copy and paste that into ZenGengo. So in the first column, I would have the name, like this. The second column, I probably have the ID number. And the third column, I would have their email address. Oops. And by the way, each of these has to be unique. So you can't have any duplicate values. You can't have 2 students with the same number. You can't have 2 students with the same email, and you can't have 2 students with the same name. Now, you might have 2 Johns in the class, but I would call them John 1 and John 2, or John A and John B, not just for ZenGengo purposes, but also when it comes to grading later, you'll wonder, like, which John is this? So we perform a check to make sure that all of these values are unique, basically. Oops. Okay. Now, once I've got that information, I can just click on Command. I can highlight the data that I want to copy, do Command C, and then Command V enter here, and then I would click on the check button, and that would verify that my data is formatted correctly. Okay, and then I would click on Save. Okay. Now let's go on to the next assignment and see how that looks now on submission. So let's go on to speaking drill. Now, if I preview that assignment with the eye icon, I won't be required to input my details. Remember, the eye icon is just for quickly checking the contents of the assignment as a teacher to make sure everything is working the way you want it to. If you want to see the whole procedure of inputting the name, going through the assignment, and then submitting it, you have to go to the cog and click on View as Student. Okay. So I'm going to go to cog, View as Student. Now you'll see that I have 4 names here. Okay, so there's a little bit of trust involved here. Now, this is not ideal if you are doing like high stakes testing, for example. If you're using ZenGengo for maybe formative assignments or just general practice activities, you can have the students just choose their name from the list. Okay, it's not ideal if you're really concerned about one student choosing the name of another student, either intentionally or accidentally. Okay, so we do have a confirmation message, so to help prevent the student from choosing the name accidentally. So you choose your name as George, click next, continue as George. Okay, so you have to confirm like twice, once when you choose your name and then once before you submit the assignment. So what we're trying to do here is balance keeping ZenGengo as easy, keeping the onboarding as easy as possible, as low barrier as possible, with the possibility that students might cheat or make mistakes. Okay, so as a teacher, you have to choose what you think is the appropriate level of of security on the submission settings. Yeah. But this is fine for most teachers, I think. Just having the students choose their name from the list. Okay, are you sure that you're George? Yes, I'm sure. Okay, and then they can do the assignment. Okay. Now, this is a speaking drill assignment. So what the student has to do is to basically speak the line on the page, and the computer will give feedback on whether it was spoken in a comprehensible way. My name is John. So anyone, by the way, who's interested in speech recognition, like you really want to go deep into speech recognition, there's another webinar that I did with an expert in speech recognition. I really recommend you watch it. If you go to the Tiltal group on Facebook, or you go to tiltal.org, you can find it there. And it basically talks about the different kinds of speech recognition that we have on ZenGengo, and the different kinds of speech recognition that his company has, which is called ELSA. So we basically have two kinds of speech recognition. One is a generous mode, which is the default mode, and one is a strict mode. The generous mode, if the student has a katakana accent, or if they don't pronounce the words like really very clearly, it gives them the benefit of the doubt, basically. So they're more than likely to get a green check. The strict mode, as the name suggests, is much more strict. The enunciation and the clarity of the pronunciation is much more important. So if you have a higher level group, or if you're focusing specifically on pronunciation, I'd recommend choosing the strict mode. You can do that by going to your speaking drill and just toggling from one mode to the other. By the way, if you're interested in using ELSA, we can set that up for you. It's not available by default, but you can, if you are part of an institution, we can set up an institutional plan for you, and then we can talk about enabling ELSA. I think for most people, either generous or strict mode for speaking drill is more than sufficient for students to practice their speaking autonomously with the computer. Okay. This is an example of a listen and repeat activity, so the students can listen and repeat the text. This is called, actually, the technical name for this is elicited imitation. And research has been done that shows that students can't just memorize the phrase, especially with longer sentences. They have to parse the grammar in the sentence in order to repeat it accurately. So there is some grammatical understanding required for doing listen and repeat activities. It's not just parroting. Yeah, there is some grammatical and syntactical parsing required on a cognitive level in order to do listen and repeat, especially with the longer sentences, as I said.
I am 25 years old.
Now you can actually choose the voice that you want as well in this assignment. So you can, again, if you go back to speaking drill and go to edit settings, you'll be able to see that at the top here, you can choose the accents, US, UK, or Australian for English, and then we can choose male or female voices. And we also have some kids' voices. I think Justin and maybe Ivy are kids' voices. So if you're teaching younger kids and you want them to listen to what sounds like a kid's voice, these are good to choose. Yeah. So
I am 25 years old.
I am 25. I'm just going to skip, so you can see that obviously I didn't pronounce that, so it's not recognized, and that will be scored lower than the other questions. Now, this is an interesting question type. So what I've done here is I created an image, and I just put in like some speech bubbles. You can't do this in ZenGengo, by the way. I did this using another application called Pixelmator, which I think I have here somewhere. Anyway, on a Mac, it's really great. It's reasonable price, but you can do this on any kind of image editor. I just created a speech bubble. I put in some words in one and an image in the other, and basically the idea is, that the student has to figure out what words are appropriate for this image. Yeah. So where do you live? And it would be I live in London, right? So I live in London. That's right, yeah. Okay, this is, I think, another listen and repeat activity.
Where do you work?
Okay, so this is actually a prompt and response activity. So the audio is the prompt, the question, where do you work?
Where do you work?
And the student has to produce the response. Yeah. I work in an office. I work in an office. Okay, so here you can see even with the generous mode, if you don't really enunciate very well, it still penalizes you. Yeah. This is a kind of a scramble activity, so the student has to actually unscramble the response. So again, it's a kind of requires some syntactic or some grammatical ability in order to do that. Yeah. What do you do? I am a computer programmer. I am a computer programmer. Okay, and submit that. That's gone in. My feedback is shown immediately. My score, I can see my detailed feedback, and that's it. Okay. Now, if I go to my submissions here, every time you want to check your submissions, by the way, you can click on refresh. Let me just share the screen again here. Every time you want to check your submissions, you can click on the refresh button here. Okay. Now you'll see that that's updated. The number of submissions here is updated. And for speaking drill, I have one submission. And if I click on view, I'll be able to see who has submitted that assignment. Okay. And I can see George submitted the assignment. Now, this information here, remember, I specified this earlier. So in my submission settings, I specified his ID number and his email, right? Now, when the student submits the assignment, they don't see that information. All they see is the name. So that's some level of privacy that we have. We don't reveal the email or the ID of every student on the list. We only reveal their name, okay? So, but that information does go into the teacher's side. So you can see speaking drill again. If I go to view, you can see that the ID number of the submitter and also their email and when they submitted it as well. Yeah. Now this comes in handy later. Now, when I have many submissions for this assignment, which I'm going to have eventually, if I go and look at the gradebook, now I should probably include this in the list of things to discuss. But basically, the gradebook is the main way that you can keep track of what the students are doing over the course of your semester. If you're using ZenGengo regularly, okay, you can make use of the gradebook. And this is the gradebook. So I have the names of my students, John, Paul, George, Ringo. So the reason that I have Ringo on here, even though he hasn't done anything yet, is because I specified a list of submitters in advance. So if you specify a list of submitters in advance, you get all of their names here, even if they haven't done anything yet, okay? If you choose the option for collect details on submission, you won't get everyone's name until they've submitted at least one assignment type, okay? And if they input their name as, I don't know, Ringo the first time, but they input it as Rango or something the second time, the computer won't know it's the same person, okay? So if you're using collect student details on submission, you need to make sure that students type their name exactly the same every time. If you're not confident that they're going to do that, I would recommend either this option, students in advance, or require login with Google or Microsoft, and that will mean that the name is standardized and it's always going to be the same no matter what. Yeah. So let's talk about logging in with Google or Microsoft a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to require students to log in with Google or Microsoft because I know that they're going to be doing many assignments in this folder, and I want to be sure that I'm tracking them with the least amount of error involved. Okay. Restrict domain is something you can do if you want to make sure that your students are only joining you from your school's domain. If you input the part after the @ symbol, so example, I teach at KO University, right? So it's at ko.jp, it's something at ko.jp. So I could just put ko.jp in there, and then nobody from any other institution could join this folder, okay? But I'm not going to do that just right now. I'm going to just require login with Google or Microsoft, okay? Click on save. Now the students will then have to join the course. Okay, so I'm going to open another browser to show you what the student view would look like. Oops. Okay, now if I go to ZenGengo.com, see if I'm already, okay, I'm not logged in yet. So as a student, what you have to do is, if you see here, students should register at app.zengengo.com/student/register and sign in at app.zengengo.com/students. Okay, so you can give your students one of these links. In the first lesson, you would need to give them the first link, and every subsequent lesson, you have to give them the second link. So I think I'm already registered, so I'm not going to show you the registration process. I'm just going to show you the login process for the student. Okay, so this is the student sign in. Now be careful that your students do not register as teachers, okay? If they go to app.zengengo.com, that's the login for the teacher, okay? So be really careful about that. Make sure they go to app.zengengo.com/students, okay? That's the login for students. Yeah, it says here for students in case there's any confusion. So Oliver's asking how the gradebook looks if they are logged in with Google, and I will show that in a moment. Yeah. So I'm going to sign in with Google as a student. Okay, and got my student account here. And you can see that I've already joined some courses here. So I've already joined these 3 courses. And I'm going to join this new course here. So in order to join this course, what I need to do, or you as a teacher need to do, is give the student this code, right? This is the join code, okay? So you give them this code, and then they would click on join a course, and they would input the join code and click OK. And that's it, okay? They are now in your course. You can see here, I think it's this one, or one of these two, the same name. Sorry, I don't know which one is the correct one, but I joined My English Course 101. Now, if I reload this page, I'll be able to see that student now is listed as one of the members of this folder. Okay, here. Okay, so Tarasato, ID number, and email address. Now you can change. If they made a mistake with their name or made a mistake with their ID number when they registered, you can change that. But I wouldn't recommend changing it after they've submitted assignments because it won't change the details on the submissions. So you're going to have 2 Tarasatos, one with the old name and one with the new name, right? So this editing the name, editing the ID number is only to do on the first day if they make a mistake when they sign up. It's just kind of a backup for you as a teacher. Yeah. Okay, now, if I go to that course, I think it's this one here. Yeah. So this is where I think we've moved on now to courses. We've kind of skipped lessons. So I'll come back to that in a minute, okay? But this is where you're looking at the course. Now, if I go to the course tab, I can change various things. I can change the course name. If I change it to My English Course 102 and click Save, let's go back to this page. There we go. Okay, you can see the name is updated. So that is the correct one, My English Course 102. Okay, you can see the course description is here. If you want to put in some longer course description, you can do that by typing it in the box here. Something like that. Okay, we can save it, and we can, as soon as you save it, it will be available to the student here. Yeah. We can also specify a course image if you like, and this is the one I have chosen, but you can change it if you like here. Click on Edit Media. Okay, and this is where you determine the content of the course. So the course consists of lessons, and I haven't yet shown you how to create a lesson, so I'll do that next. But you can basically drag lessons from the left side to the right side in order to assign or unassign the lessons. If it's on the left side, it's available, it's not assigned. If I save it and go back to the student view, I'll see that the course has no content. So the student can't do that course now because there's no lessons in there. Okay. If I drag it back again, I should be able to do that course now. There we go. Okay. A few other things you might want to try to use. We have these new options here for showing student progress and also showing their recent activity. These can be toggled on or off, so I can check them both on. Okay, and if I go back to the student view, I'll see that now we have recent activity and we also have percent complete. Okay, so if the student submits a lesson on any of these days, they'll get a check mark on that day. Okay. And if they complete the lesson, they'll also get a check mark to the right here. If they start the lesson but don't complete it, they will get kind of an in progress mark here, which I can show you that quickly now. Okay, so I'm doing this as a student. And it asked me to confirm that I am the correct student, which I'll just say, okay, just make sure that they are logged in correctly. Okay, I can then start the lesson. The first part of the lesson is a video gap fill. This is created from a YouTube video. And then I simply looked on YouTube. I found a good video I wanted to use. And then I chose which words I wanted to remove from the video. And I made this activity. Oops. Okay. So that's the first activity in the lesson. A lesson, as I said, consists of multiple activities kind of combined together. And the student will get their feedback. Okay. Now, if the student exits the lesson or goes back home at that point, it's okay. Okay. If they go back to that course now, they'll see that that lesson is in progress. Okay. Now, the progress here hasn't changed because this only responds to when the lesson is completed, not when the assignment within a lesson is completed. Okay, this little symbol here shows that the student has done part of the lesson but not finished it. This section here shows that they've finished an entire lesson. Yeah. So the student click on it again, and it will ask them, "Would you like to continue your previous attempt?" So they only did the first part of the lesson, right? So they're going to continue with the rest of the lesson now. 10% complete. Okay, next part of the lesson is a writing task where students have to respond, would they prefer to live in a city or a town? Okay. Now, with the writing tasks, you can specify a minimum word count, and students will not be able to submit unless they write at least that number of words. So if you're wanting them to do just like, you just want to know that they've written at least 20 words, okay? This is a good way to ensure that, yeah. Now, if they do something like this, which they might do, this will not be scored, okay? So with the grading of the writing assignment, it only gives them a score if the word is in the dictionary. So they would get some points for these words, but they wouldn't get any points for these words. Yeah. So if the word is not spelled correctly, or if it's just a junk word, it won't be included in the automatic scoring of the writing tasks. So that's a little bit of peace of mind for you again as a teacher, that they're not just going to write a bunch of nonsense in the assignment. You can see I only got 8%. Okay, so basically the automatic scoring disregarded all of the junk words here. I'm getting a question about Spanish. Yes, we do support Spanish. We officially support English, French, German, and Spanish. Today, I'm only going to talk about English just because I'm an English teacher and that's what I really know about. But you can create all of these assignments in French, Spanish, and German as well. Yeah. Okay, and I can go on to the next activity. This one is a video recording activity. So the students will have to actually show their face. I know in Japan, that's like, students don't particularly like doing that, some students, but others are fine with it. You know, as we go back to face-to-face classes, I think this is a good way, either face-to-face or online, to get them to do speaking activities. So they click on setup camera, make sure that their camera is configured correctly. And now we can see my real background. Okay. Now, if I click on record, I think a snake should never be kept as a pet because they are wild animals and some of them are poisonous, and a cat or a dog makes a much better pet. Okay. They can then, once they've finished recording, they can review their recording. I think a snake should, and if they're happy with their recording, they can submit. And again, if they're not happy, the same with the audio, they can re-record it. Okay. This time I'm going to click next. I'm going to submit. Now, the reason I've got 0 for a score here is because there was no transcript required for the video. We can only calculate a score if the student writes a transcript, and that is configured when you create the assignment. Yeah. So when you create your video recording assignment, there's an option for the students to do a transcript. And if you check that option on, then the score will be calculated from the transcript. Here we have a speaking drill, which I already showed you before, so I'm just going to skip through the questions. Okay. Here we have audio task, which I think I showed you before already. My best friend name is Bob. Okay. Okay, here we now have a listening gap fill activity. So this is a reading text that's been converted to a listening activity using speech synthesis. And I can click on the play button here to play the audio.
England is a country that is part of the United Kingdom.
Okay. Oops.
It shares land borders with Wales to its west and Scotland to its north.
I'll just skip a couple of questions here. Okay, I can see my feedback. Okay, and finally, maybe not finally, but next we're on to a text to test assignment type, which is basically a reading and a listening and a vocabulary and a grammar activity as well, all combined into one assignment. So the student will read and listen to the text first.
England is a country that is part of the United Kingdom. It shares land borders with Wales to its west and Scotland to its north.
And then they will check the meanings of the words by hovering over the words that are highlighted in yellow. Now, these words can be specified by the teacher, okay, and the definitions can also be edited by the teacher as well. But ZenGengo will, by default, provide definitions for you, and it can do that in various languages. It can do it in English, it can do it in Japanese, Korean, Spanish, French, German, and I think about 10 other languages as well. And this is the kind of definition and vocabulary matching section. Okay, so that will be a large island, maybe Great Britain, I think. United Kingdom, that would be North Sea, and that would be Isle of Wight. Okay, and finally, I get this kind of grammar reordering section where the student has to read the parts of the passage and put them in the correct order. So England is a country that is part of the United Kingdom. It shares land borders with Wales to its west and Scotland to its north. Okay, I'll just skip these questions. Okay, I got my score, 67%, and I can go to the next activity. And I think I already showed you this one, so I'll just skip through these questions here. Okay. And finally, this is a content page assignment type. Now, the student doesn't have to do anything for this. I mean, they don't have to do anything with ZenGengo. You might want to use content page assignment types to get them to discuss something, or to get them to in this case, to write something down on paper. So this content page assignment types are just used for delivering a media to the student, like an image or a PDF or an audio file or a video file, and then just allows you to confirm that they've seen it, or that they've done something in response to that media. Yeah. Okay, and I think the final activity is vocabulary test here. I have a vocabulary test as a final activity type here. Okay. Now that's it. Now I've got to the end of the lesson. And remember, this lesson is part of a course. Now, if I click on continue course, I'll be taken back. Now I'll see that my progress is 100% because there was only one lesson in this course and I've done it. So the course is now complete, and this is a check mark here, and I can't click on this, and I can see a check mark on the 19th, and the course is complete. Okay. If I go back to the teacher's view and I go to folder gradebook, let's just reload the page actually. Now, if I click on folder gradebook, I'll be able to see, again, the student name and their email and their ID number, and I can see how many assignments they've completed, and I can see what the total score is of all assignments, and I can see what the total score of submitted assignments is. So these two are slightly different. So one is the total score of assignments, whether or not they've submitted, whether they submitted or not. This is only the score of the assignments that they have submitted. In this case, the student has submitted all the assignments, so these are the same. Yeah. And I can download this as an Excel document or as a CSV document. I can easily then export that into my final grades that I'm going to send to my university or my school, for the final grading. I also have this option to look at logs. So if I'm not sure that a certain student submitted a certain assignment, I can find them in the logs. I can see exactly when they submitted it, who submitted it, what their email address is, what their ID is, what assignment type was submitted, what the score is, and even I can see how long it took them to complete the assignment. Okay, so this is a good way, again, to keep your tabs on who's cheating. Like if there's an assignment that you know is going to take them at least 5 minutes to do properly, and you see it and you see that they completed it in 30 seconds, then you can flag that as a suspicious activity, maybe. Yeah. And if I can search for a student by email address, or I can search for them by name or anything else. Yeah. So this is only this particular student here, and I can just look for audio recordings, and I can see that, yeah, this student submitted the audio recording on 19th of March at 8:56 p.m., which is correct. Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to go back to lessons a little bit. Okay, so I kind of jumped over that, but you can see the middle tab here is lessons. So how do you create a lesson? Well, a lesson is a combination of assignments. Now, if we go to the folder here, I can see that these assignments are already in a lesson. So if I try to put them into a lesson again, it will probably tell me that some assignments are already in a lesson. Okay, so you can't have an assignment in more than one lesson. An assignment can only be in one lesson at a time. Okay. So if I want to do that, I have to delete the lesson, or I have to remove the assignment from the lesson. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete this course. Okay. Deleting the course will not delete any submissions, so you have to delete those separately. And delete the course. I'm going to delete the lesson. Okay. And now I only have a folder containing 10 assignments. I don't have any lessons. I don't have any courses. Okay. So I'm going to combine the first two assignments into a lesson. If I check both of them and then click on the Create Lesson button, I can call that Lesson 1. Okay. And that should create Lesson 1. Okay, lesson 1 has been created. I'm going to take my second two, maybe 3, and combine them into lesson 2. Okay, give it a second to do that. And let's just take the next 5 and put them into lesson 3. That's it. Now, Now I have 3 lessons. Now I can still, if I want to, I can still administer these assignments, sorry, individually. I can still copy the link to the assignment and paste it into Zoom or paste it into an email or anything. So just because the assignment is part of a lesson doesn't mean the student can't, doesn't mean that you as a teacher can't still send a link directly to the assignment. You can do that, okay? But if you want to the student to do multiple assignments in one go, then it's better to send them a link to the lesson, okay? So to do that, I would go to the lessons panel, and I can see lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3. Now, if I want to check what this lesson contains, I can either go back to the assignments and see, oh, okay, this is the contents of lesson 1, or I can go back to lessons panel and click on the edit button here. Now I'll see that this lesson contains 2 assignments, okay, audio recording and a content page. If I want to, I can change the order of the assignments doing this. If I want to take one out, take an assignment out the lesson, I can do this, add it back in again, change the order, okay, click on save, and that will all be applied to my lesson. Now, if I want to share that lesson with a student, I can click on the link button. This time it's a link to submit the lesson, not the assignment in the lesson, okay? Pop that into the chat. And the student can then click on the link. Now you'll see the link is slightly different. The link for the assignment starts with a.ttd. The link for the lesson starts with l.ttd. So that's how you can tell it's different. That's how you can tell that is a link for a lesson. It starts with the L rather than A. Gustavo is asking whether lessons can contain similar assignments. Yes, like you can actually duplicate assignments. So if I say I want to do, I don't know, 5 audio recordings, the first one is about your hometown, the second one is about your hobbies, the third one is about something else, I can just click on the assignment on the left on the check button, click on duplicate, okay, and then choose the folder that I want to duplicate it to. Now, I made a mistake here of calling this the exact same thing as another folder, so I don't know which one this is now, but I'm going to guess it's the second one. Okay. And I was correct. That's good. Okay. Now I can just call this audio recording 2, and I can call this audio recording 1. Okay. Now, audio recording 1 is in my lesson 1, but audio recording 2 is not. If I go back to lessons and back to lesson 1 and edit, I can now see that audio recording 2 is available to assign to this lesson. I can do that if I want to. Okay. The reason the other assignments aren't listed is because they're all already part of lessons. Okay. So only assignments that are available and are not already part of another lesson can be assigned to a lesson. Yeah. Okay. So you can preview the lesson by clicking on the eye in the same way that you can preview an assignment. I'm going to go back to submission settings and just go back to collect student details on submission to show you that lessons can be used in this way as well. Okay. And now if I go to the lesson, if I go to preview the lesson, oops, it will ask me to input my name and my ID and my email address. Okay. If I go back to submission settings, and then I can uncheck these 2. I don't care about those anymore. And if I then preview the lesson, it will only ask me for my name. So again, this is the lowest possible barrier to onboarding. Now, it's recognizing that someone called Paul has already submitted an assignment in this lesson. If I go back to my gradebook and look at the logs, yeah, I'll see, look, Paul already submitted the assignment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clear my submissions. Okay. So I can see that I have like 2 submissions for this one, 1 for this, 3 for this, etc. To clear all of your submissions really easily, you just click on check all and then click on the recycle button. Okay. Don't make the mistake of clicking on the trash icon. The trash icon will delete the assignment and all of the related submissions, and everything will be gone completely forever. Okay. And you need to confirm that by clicking on this. Don't do that. If you just want to delete the submissions so you can reuse the assignments, say between different weeks or different semesters, that can be done by clicking on the recycle button here. Are you sure you want to clear 11 submissions for 11 assignments? Yes. Okay. Now, if I go back to my gradebook, I'll see that there's nothing in here and there's nothing in the log. So everything is completely empty again. Okay, now if I go to my lessons and I click on the preview button for the lesson and I put in Paul, it should allow me to do it without any problem. Okay, yeah. And I'll pop this in the chat so you guys can try it out if you want. Okay, so I click to start lesson, I click on start and I got my audio recording. Okay, my best friend's name is Bob. Okay, click next. And remember, the second lesson we had was a content page, which is correct. Yes. All I have to do is look at the image and click on OK. That's fine. Okay. Lesson is complete. I click exit. Lesson is complete. Okay. I can close that tab. Now, as a teacher, if I click on refresh, I'll see that I have submissions for those assignments that are in that lesson. Okay. Now, if I want to make my life a little easier, I can sort by lesson using the column header here. And I can just sort ascending or descending by lesson, and then all the lessons are together. Yeah. The other thing, if you're using lessons extensively, you can actually look at the gradebook for a specific lesson, and you can do that by clicking on the cog icon next to the lesson that you're looking at, and then click on View Gradebook, and that will basically filter the gradebook to only include assignments in that lesson. So you can see it only includes audio recording 1 and content page. And then everything else, assignments completed, only applies to that lesson. So a student called Paul has submitted every assignment within lesson 1. Yeah. But he only got 50% because that's the score that he got from those two added together. Yeah. Okay. I'd like to show you a few more things that you can do with lessons. Okay, so let me just get rid of this other assignment here now. Don't need that. Now, if you go back to the lesson and click on the edit button, you'll be able to see some other options. So the first things you've already seen, you can assign or unassign assignments. I should think of different terminology. You could add or remove assignments to the lesson. Now here, you can either allow the student to choose the assignment they want to do in the lesson, or you can have it in a sequential order. It's sequential by default, yeah? So let me just go back to my assignments. I'm going to clear out my submissions again. And I'm going to go back to my lessons, edit lesson 1 to make it a free choice, okay? Now, if I preview lesson 1, I'll see now it's a bit different. I'll see now the student can actually choose the assignment they want to do. So if you're doing something like, I don't know, a 30-day speaking challenge or something like that, and you have like, day 1, day 2, day 3, I don't know, that could be done either as a lesson or as a course. But anyway, if you want the student to be able to choose the assignment and not to be done in a particular order, that's possible. Yeah. You can also implement a time limit. Now, why is it? Okay. Yeah. So the time limit is only possible in sequential mode, because with free choice, they could be sitting on this page for like 10 minutes with just choosing. So a time limit is only available for sequential mode. And say I can set that to say 10 minutes. Okay, that means they will have 10 minutes to complete all of the assignments in that lesson. Okay, and if I save that, come back to this page and try again, we'll now see that there is a time limit of 10 minutes. I click start, and then I can see the timer starts ticking down. Okay, yeah, and if I exit the lesson and come back, when a timer is enabled, we'll see that it continues from the same point, or roughly the same point as where it left off. There, 9 minutes 50 remaining. Okay. So if you're doing like a test and you want to make sure the student doesn't spend more than 10 minutes on the test, you can do that by using the time limit on the lessons. Something you might not know then is that you can see how long each student has remaining on that particular lesson. If you go into the settings for the lesson and say they went, oh, teacher, I made a mistake. I started, I didn't mean to start. You can delete that and then they'll be able to get the full 10 minutes again if you do that. Yeah. We also have availability periods, and these are defined on a per lesson basis as well, not a per assignment basis, not a per course basis. This is all done on a per lesson basis. So you can do availability period, check it on, and you can say, I'd like this to be available from 19th of March at 12 o'clock to the 20th of March at 12 o'clock. Okay. Now, if a student tries to submit the lesson outside of that period, they will not be able to do so. At the moment, it should be fine. Okay. But if I change it to say, let's see, 21st to the 26th, it should be not permitted. Yeah, you can see now the lesson is available from 21st to the 26th. So you can do availability periods as well. And not to worry, if your students are in a different time zone, all the times will be converted. So if you set the time in Tokyo and your student is in China, it will be converted to China time when they submit the lesson. Okay, let me take that off. And now, how would I then create a course for these 3 lessons? I just check them all and then click on create the course button here. And okay, so this is something that we changed actually. This is something that we're going to change, or that we have changed, is that you no longer need to require students to log in to create a course. So that shouldn't, that pop-up should not be there. Let's just imagine that's not there. Okay, you can create a course even if your students are not logging in. But at the moment, for some reason, it's not letting me do that. So we'll have to fix that, I think. Okay. Now, I think what I'd like to do is, I've already shown you courses now and lessons. I'd like to show you the lesson library. Let's see. Let's go back to my homepage. So the lesson library is a great new feature we have. Currently, it only includes English lessons, by the way. So yeah, it's mainly for teachers of English, the lesson library right now. But it does include a wide range of different topics, different kinds of lessons, and they're also leveled to CEFR, the Central Common European Framework of Reference, CEFR, which is a way of determining the difficulty of different kinds of language learning activities. Yes, that's right. Yeah, Gustavo, thank you. So you can access the lesson library by clicking on Lesson Library from the top of your ZenGengo account. Now, you'll see that we have over 100 lessons available at the moment, and we're adding new ones all the time. And you can filter lessons by topic. So you can search, for example, if it's, I don't know, you're searching for something to do with AI, I can put in AI, and I can see that I have a lesson on AI here. Yeah. Or if I'm looking for something specifically for my lower level learners, I might check on the A1. This is CEFR level A1, and I'll get all the content that's appropriate for CEFR level A1. Now, you might be wondering, how do we know it's appropriate for CEFR level A1? Well, first of all, these lessons are developed by language teachers. So language teachers who have a lot of experience in determining the right level of difficulty for a student. And also we used a tool called Text Inspector, which examines hundreds of different metrics on different reading texts. And determines whether they are A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, or C2. Yeah. So we use a combination of teacher intuition and also kind of objective metrics to determine the Cepher level. So you are, say, it's 10 minutes before class, and you want to have an activity like quickly. This is a good way to get one, right? So I'm going to go to A1. I'm going to click on try it first. Okay, let's just see if this is suitable for my students or not. Okay, it looks pretty good.
Excuse me, does this train stop at Shinbashi?
No, Shinbashi is in the other direction.
Okay, so I can try the lesson out and just to check if it's okay for my students or not.
Excuse me, does this train stop at Shinbashi?
No, Shinbashi is in the other direction.
Okay,
Oh, no.
it looks pretty good. I think this is suitable for my students. Okay, so I'd like to use it. So I'm going to click on now import. Okay, that will take me to another window where I will have to choose the folder in which to import that lesson. And I'm going to go for my English course 101. Okay, click that, click import, and within a couple of seconds, that will be in my folder. There we go. Get off at the next station is now a lesson in my folder. Okay, I still have the lessons that I created. Remember lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, and I also have this new lesson. Now I can give that to students by copying the link and then just giving it to the students like that. Okay, or I can make the lesson part of a course. Let me go back and make this login only. Okay. I'm going to combine these into a course. Call it My Amazing Course. Okay. Now I have created a course from those lessons. Then I need to publish the course before it's visible to students. So I click on publish. Okay. And I can copy the link to the course page. Let's see what happens when I do that. There we go. I can see the course page now here. So I can give you guys the link to the course page. Okay. And then you can just click on the lesson to be able to submit it. Let's go back to this one. I'm just showing you that it's possible to have a course without requiring login right now. So this course now does not require students to log in. What it will do is it will just ask their name when they click on one of the lessons. So lesson 1, I have to input my name. Okay, if I click on lesson 2, I'll have to input my name. So this is because under submission settings, I said collect student details on submission. Yeah. If I go back to my lessons list and I edit lesson 1 and say if I add an availability period, okay, that will then show up on the student's screen. Actually, I'm not sure if you can see that right now. Let me just try here. There we go. Okay. There we go. So you can now see that this lesson, the availability period is now shown to the student. So if you're using courses and you give the student the link to the course, right, which can be found here, copy link, they'll be able to see when each lesson is actually available or when it's due, when it starts, when it ends. All of that can be shown to the student, and you can just use that one course link as the landing page for all of your content for your entire semester's worth of lessons. Okay. So just to recap, okay, you create your assignments, you combine your assignments into lessons, you combine your lessons into a course. You can, if you want to, require students to log in, but you do not have to do that. And then you can give the students the link to the course, and you'll be able to use that as a landing page for all of your content that you've created for your entire semester. And you don't have to create your own content. You can simply rely on or utilize the lessons that we've made for you that cover 6 Cepher levels. And there's 100 different lessons in there that you can use for free or as part of your subscription. Okay, someone's asking about the lesson library contents. Okay, so for this, for the lesson library that you can access by clicking on the link at the top of the page, this is all created by us at ZenGengo. Okay, it's created by professional language teachers, and we use, as I said, the Cepher leveling tool to determine the level. So this is not crowdsourced. You know, this doesn't contain lessons made by other teachers, but you can share lessons with other teachers if you want to. And to do that, you just go to the lesson you want to share. And let me go back to the course, for example. English course 101. And you just go to your lessons list and you click on the cog and you got export, sorry. And you can provide this code to another teacher, and then they will be able to import your lesson, and it will make a copy of every assignment in that lesson within the other teacher's account. And it will also make a copy of the lesson itself. So yeah, if you want to share lessons with other teachers, the way to do it is to use the import and export function that can be accessed by clicking on the cog icon and then clicking on export. And then to import a lesson, you've got the import button at the top here, right? So the other teacher that you're giving the code to would click on import, and then they would paste the import code and they'll be able to import the lesson that you've created. And the same thing can be done with courses. You can export and import an entire course of content, yeah? And that will create a copy of all the assignments and all the lessons within that course, and you can share it with your colleagues. Yeah. Yes. If you know some other teachers who are using ZenGengo, then yeah, you can easily share content with them. Okay. So I've been talking for quite a long time. I've been talking for 87 minutes, and I'd like to give people a chance to ask questions. So yeah, if there's anyone has any other questions or any comments or any suggestions or anything else at all, maybe you could type your question in the chat, and then I will be able to allow you to switch on your mic, and then maybe you could read your question. This was a bit of a deep dive. So probably it's a little bit overwhelming, even if you've been using ZenGengo for a while. I think you might find it a little bit, some of the settings a little bit overwhelming, but I think if you rewatch the video and just focus on the part that you want to do, that will be the easiest way to do it. But as I said, yeah, you can create, you can just simply use ZenGengo to create assignments, and then just give students the link to the assignment. Whenever you want to do a speaking assignment, for example, just create one, give them the link, and then they can submit it for homework. If you want to take things to the next level, you know, combine some assignments into some lessons, give them the lesson link for homework or to do in class. And the most kind of comprehensive level of the hierarchy is a course, which consists of lessons, which in turn consist of assignments. Okay, yeah. So I didn't have chance actually to get onto the Google onto the Google Classroom synchronization. But basically, you can synchronize a folder with Google Classroom. But if you do that, you cannot create lessons and you cannot create courses. The reason for that is that we assume that you're using Google Classroom as a way to structure those assignments. So whenever you create an assignment, you can then push it to Google Classroom. That will appear on the student's Google Classroom stream. And then when they submit it, the score will be updated both on Google and also on ZenGengo. So lessons and courses are ways of structuring ZenGengo assignments within ZenGengo. But if you're syncing with Google Classroom, it kind of conflicts. So we don't allow you to create lessons or courses, but you can still import a lesson from the lesson library, and then you can post the components. You can post the component assignments of that lesson to your Google Classroom if you want to make use of the content that we have available for you. Hope that's clear. Okay, other questions? Gustavo is asking, when the subscription period finishes, can you still use your created content? All of your content will be retained within ZenGengo. Actually, if you go to, let me share my screen again. This is answered in a help article. If you go to help and then the help center, and then you type in, I think, subscription, maybe. And then what happens to my data if I cancel my subscription? And then you'll see that, yeah, if you, when your subscription runs out, you will continue to have access to all of the assignments you've created, all submissions you've received, all materials you've uploaded, and you'll be able to view your submissions and grades, but you will not be able to create new assignments or lessons or courses, and you will not be able to receive new submissions. So these are the restrictions we have on people whose free trial has run out, or whose paid subscription has run out. We don't delete your content. All of that is safe forever. For as long as ZenGengo is around, your submissions and your assignments and your lessons and your courses will be saved on our database, but you won't be able to create new ones or receive new submissions. Yeah. Greg is asking, no questions at this time, but impressed. Thanks a lot, Greg. Appreciate it. Greg Lewis, thanks very much. Yeah, please feel free to watch this back. I'll be posting this to the ZenGengo Facebook group, and feel free to also to contact me. You can do that through ZenGengo if you click on help and then contact us. I pretty much read all of these tickets that are submitted. Right, it's a very small team we have here. It's not like a faceless corporation. Like we read every ticket basically personally ourselves. So just contact me if you have questions. Joseph is asking about exchanging lessons. We would love you guys to start exchanging lessons using the Facebook group. That would be absolutely amazing. Like if you create a lesson and say, hey, I made this lesson on Star Wars or whatever. I know Joe does a lot of lessons with music. Now, we have to be a bit careful with music because of copyright reasons, but I think as long as the video is hosted on YouTube, it should be fine, because YouTube deals with all of that copyright stuff for us, so we don't have to worry about that. So yeah, for sharing lessons that you've created, please do use our Facebook group, which is again facebook.com/group/ZenGengo. And if you post your import or your export code in the group, other teachers will be able to use it. And you can see that we have started doing that ourselves. We created a lesson about St. Patrick's Day, for example, and this is the URL to try the lesson. And the last part of the URL is actually the import code. So if you want to import it into your account, you can use the last part of the URL to do it. Sean is asking about PDF creation. I'm not sure what that question means, Sean, sorry, but we don't actually have PDF creation. At the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned RIP PDF, which I'm somewhat suggesting that ZenGengo could be used so you don't have to use PDFs anymore, right? I don't think PDFs will ever die, actually. I think teachers are too familiar with PDFs. But everything you can do with a PDF, like gap fills and reordering and vocabulary matching, you can do on ZenGengo. So Montana is asking about business lessons. I think we would like to add more business lessons to our lesson library. We are adding new lessons as quickly as we can. We have 6 different levels, separate levels to cover. So yeah, hopefully we could add more business content as well. Douglas, thank you very much. I think he's already gone. Jadranka, your free trial has expired. In some cases, we extend free trials, if you have extenuating circumstances. But yeah, I mean, 30 days is pretty generous, I think. And ZenGengo has a lot of stuff, for the price. We think it's a really, really great platform. So yeah, I would encourage you to sign up, I think, for a subscription, a paid subscription. Arthur is asking me, set some assignment type to build compendium. Okay, that's great to hear. Yeah, Arthur was saying that he has some students who are refugees and asylum seekers, and they have very modest technology. Yeah, so again, ZenGengo is great if you have students in that situation and maybe you don't know who they are and you just want to give them like practice on their smartphone or something. Yeah, ZenGengo can definitely be used for that. Sean is saying that when he creates reading activity, it generates a PDF. I don't know if that's true, Sean. Sorry. ZenGengo doesn't create PDFs for any activities. I did do that for Abax, actually. Another publisher in Japan. Maybe that's what you're thinking of. But yeah, I don't. ZenGengo doesn't do anything with PDFs. Yeah. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate the chance to talk to you all and get to know you a bit better. And I think I'm going to end in a few minutes. So if there's any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Any other comments, any other feedback? Are there any features that people would like to see on the platform? Are there any problems people have encountered? Hopefully not. Now is a chance to let us know. Okay, Sean, thank you. Yeah, please send me a message. And yeah, please, feel free to get in touch with me. Paul@zengengo.com is my address. Please, 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 please do spread the word about ZenGengo to your friends and your colleagues. We don't have a big budget. We're kind of grassroots, made by teachers for teachers kind of business here. So word of mouth really helps us. If you talk about ZenGengo, recommend it to your colleagues, maybe try to persuade your headmaster or your your boss to purchase an institutional subscription. That would really help us. And we do great deals on institutional subscriptions as well. We basically give discounts if you have at least 3 teachers at the same school who all want to use ZenGengo. Please get in touch with us and we'll give you a great deal. Yeah, I'll be posting this presentation to Facebook. Yep, the Facebook ZenGengo group, and probably will also announce, provide a link to it in the next newsletter as well. Yeah. Okay.